So I'm running it. We're starting up again here. Um,
What are you
so,
recording? What format?
I think it's
MKV?
M. No, I think it's MP4.
Oh shit. Yeah, you did. You lost it. If you can record an MKV,
Just the problem is that fucking Premiere and After Effects doesn't natively support MKV. Like I'd have to convert
bah.
out.
Because I know with OBS, when you're doing recording through OBS, they recommend MKV because if it crashes, you still
Mm-hmm.
have everything you've recorded up to that point.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is I'm also streaming it, so I think we are back live. Chat, are we back? We back, chat? I think we've only got like one person watching right now. Oops. 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 Can you see me? Okay, you can see me now. All
I had
right.
to go live again.
What's that?
Nope. Just want to see. I'm looking
I
at
think
YouTube.
we're live. Yeah, we're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. Sorry about that. Blue screen of death. I'm using Windows 11 because I'm a dumbass. I shouldn't be using Windows 11, but I need to be on top of shit. I want to be using like the newest and not necessarily the greatest. Um, Anywho, I completely forgot the train of thought that I was on. Like, I don't remember what the fuck we were talking about. I know I was in the middle of another rant and then it just fucking died on me. So yeah,
Well,
there's
we
that.
briefly talked about the connection to the occult and access or entry into
Yeah, that's
Satanism
what
as
yeah,
a
I'm trying to
result.
get into that part of it, right? And I'm trying to get into that part of like, like the aspect of it that like, just because somebody's goth doesn't mean that they're Satanist and shit like that. Um, which is a big thing. And then I remember we are talking about emo.
Yeah, briefly.
We can't, yeah, we kind of
As
got
far as the progression and the growth of the subculture, more or less.
it definitely did. Like, I mean, goth kind of switched over. There have been like I've heard people like in the emo scene saying emo's the new goth, which is a very irritating,
But it's true
statement.
when it comes
You
down
know,
to, and because even my daughter, if she sees um, what we would consider goth,
mm-hmm.
she'd say that's emo,
Ugh,
guaranteed.
it hurts.
And she has, and yes, it does hurt my black heart, but still, it's true though, I guess, because from her frame of experience and her perception, what she grew into is emo.
Right. Oh,
All the
it
kids
makes sense. Yeah. I
like,
mean,
I feel old when I talk like that.
we are. We are.
You're young compared to me, man. You're young compared to me.
I mean, not by much, man. Not by much. You know. What you're 44?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. I'm 35, so I'm only 9 years younger than you.
exactly. But we both
So
had very similar beginnings, similar frame as well.
exactly, exactly. Well, I think
So
the late '90s is like where goth really picked up hardcore
it
for like
did.
mainstream culture.
Like I'm I hate to say this. The first time I really saw goths on TV was Oprah.
Oh wow, really?
Yes, man. And I'm trying to remember the episode, but I think she was interviewing people from the subculture and what it was. And I was enthralled 100%. I'm not going to lie. Loved it. And that's where the Victorian goth and the romantic goth love came from as well because I it, it was the shit. 100%. It was the best. Still is.
Yeah. I mean, I
But that
think a lot of like that romantic and Victorian goth. I think the obsession with vampires really kicked that off.
mhm.
Anne Rice, Bram Stoker's Dracula,
I
you
heard
know,
that
so
Freudian slip.
so it's just kind of like I think that really kind of like really picked it up. Like, I mean, for me,
Mhm.
like what really kind of threw me into Victorian for a second wave was Queen of the Damned. like modern day
That's
Victorian.
I'm I never liked that movie.
Yeah, a lot of
I'll be
people don't
honest.
like that movie. Like I get a lot of
I
shit
love
for liking that movie.
no, I wanna go back and watch it again with new eyes because back then it was coming out of Interview, and
Yep.
Interview is so much different. The whole film process was different, and the story was different, and it was a lot darker,
Well,
and it was
Interview was a lot closer to like Anne Rice's story, like what was being put out there with actual Interview with the Vampire.
it
And the thing was is I think that a lot of people went into Queen of the Damned expecting something that followed, the book series far closer, and it didn't. And so for me, like at the time I hadn't read any of Anne Rice's work at the time.
mhm,
So when I watched that movie, I didn't have a point of reference. I didn't have the literary point of reference to it. So for me, it was an amazing movie, standalone.
that's probably a good thing to go into then, honestly, because then that was your gateway into reading the books
Yes, it
and
was.
watching the other things. So you couldn't judge it too harshly, and you could enjoy it for what it was, more or less.
Yeah. And I think it was just kind of like a modern rendition of, what that idea was, you know? Um,
100%. I can agree with that.
so it was one of the reasons why. So for example, like, but I've always been like that. Like I get horror fans. I get shit from horror fans for liking Rob Zombie's, Halloween. I love his rendition of
I
Halloween.
I really enjoyed the first movie. I don't r I'd have to go back and watch the second movie again just to be refreshed, but I really enjoyed the first Rob Zombie Halloween movie,
Hmm.
for what it was, because I really enjoy Halloween, the
Yep.
series, and I was excited to see what sort of take he would have. We can probably debate hours on the benefits and the negatives of that movie itself, but
Derek, welcome back. Yes, I apologize for cutting out. So what I was trying to mention before my computer very rudely crashed, before being able to finish my statement to you, is that my channel here on YouTube is very specific to the occult, and specifically what would be considered by most the dark arts, which is a term that I generally don't like to use, but I can get into that at a later date. If you're interested in talking more heavily about kind of like the occult aspect of things, specifically more so like, Satanism or, philosophical Satanism, which is the type of Satanism that I follow, um, Saturdays for the live show would be good. Tomorrow I will be uploading a new pre-recorded video. I haven't uploaded in a while. I've been doing pretty much lives nonstop here on YouTube for a while now. So we'll definitely be getting into that those conversations on Saturday on the live on Saturday, and also probably a little bit into the pre-recorded that I'm going to be uploading tomorrow. Um, Obviously, because this is the title of the show is goth and satanic culture. We are definitely going to be getting into a little bit, touching a little bit on kind of like the spirituality aspect of things related to goth culture, and kind of talking about the actual philosophy of Satanism and the occult and things like that, and the misconceptions that were brought upon people that dressed alternatively based on the misconceptions that existed with Satanism and what Satanism was about at the time. Um, so and I think it all kind of rolls into one ball, because you get a lot of people that have misconceptions about goths, for example, that all goths are Satanists. And you get misconceptions about Satanists that, all Satanists kill babies and cats for sacrifices at the altar. And it's simply not true, any of it. Like, I mean, neither of those misconceptions, they're misconceptions for a reason. I have yet to meet a Satanist that, takes part in animal sacrifice. And I have, yet to meet, an entire group of goths that are all Satanists. It's not that they don't exist. I mean, I'm a philosophical Satanist. which is a completely different video. We're not going to get
Mhm.
into the logistics of what it is to be a philosophical Satanist. Um, so you've definitely come to the right place if you're willing to learn, if you're interested in learning something new. Um, and I'm happy to have you. So welcome, 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 wholeheartedly to the community, Derek. And I hope you find your stay pleasant. There. I think that was an explanation that kind of covered all bases. So, going into what I just said though, about the misconceptions with goth and Satanism, you know, um, Noella, no, I'm not going to cover the Travis Festival. This isn't the news. And it is very far off from anything that has anything to do with this channel. So no, I will not be covering that at all ever. It's a tragic thing that happened, and I'm sorry that that happened, but it has absolutely nothing to do with either culture, the occult, the occult community or the goth community. It has nothing to do with either community. Just know that I do find that it was a very tragic, event that occurred. Um, and that I do hope that the families that are suffering from that, accident, find, solace and comfort in something, you know, after the events. That's it. Um, but this is not the news. Like this is, I didn't mean to interrupt the live stream. It's just the first live stream I caught. Thank you. No, don't worry. It's open to questions. It's open to questions. That's one of the beautiful things about doing a live is that we're able to communicate with you guys directly in the moment, right? Which is one of the reasons. If I didn't want to communicate with you guys, directly, you know, I would just be like, uploading videos. Sadly, the occult is being dragged into it. Seriously? I guess we're gonna have to be fucking. I guess we're gonna have to talk about it. I'm gonna have to look into it and see to what extent it's being dragged into. I can't cover it right now. I'll look it up and see what it's about, and then maybe I'll talk about it tomorrow in the video that I upload, possibly. Um, it seems the occult is getting dragged into a lot of shit that it shouldn't be getting dragged into. Or am I just going crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I think many people want to find something to hold responsible, which is understandable. But at the same time, um, the right responsibility has to be held for the right things.
And to the people responsible.
Yes, exactly.
If only somebody posted a link in Discord about it. Yeah. Jay, you are being very good with that. Thank you. um, I've noticed. Um, but yeah, it's sad because I mean it's just like with the goth culture. I mean the goth got dragged through the fucking mud, and that's just music and fashion. If you actually look at it, if you break goth down,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it's music and fashion. And goth got dragged through the mud all through the fucking 90s and early 2000s.
Oh, you're goth, you're depressed.
Mm-hmm. You're
Maybe,
depressed, you're
but
suicidal, you're murderous.
oh, not those things, but depressed, sure. We all
Well,
have
I
to
mean,
deal with that, that stuff
let's
growing
just
up.
look at the state of the world. Of course, I'm going to be
Oh,
fucking
that's
depressed.
the
You want me to
thing.
be happy?
It's true. That's one thing I think as well, as far as the the culture. A lot of us, I'm going to assume, I know I have been very aware of what's going on and the impacts that I'm seeing, the misconceptions, everything that's going on. Uh, we have that perception where we're outside of society somewhat, that we can see the impacts and the damage, potential damage that society's doing to its own self. Yes, we're part of that. So, in theory, we can be part of that solution too. That's a whole other
Well, I mean,
topic, I
definitely
suppose.
we could. But I
But,
mean, so
but
here's the. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
no,
Sorry.
no, go ahead. Nope, go ahead.
I'm getting passionate about because like the thing is,
Nope.
is So I'm going to start leaning a little bit more on the occult side right now. So if you guys are interested in that part of it, well, that's what I'm going to be getting into. But it ties right into the goth thing. Okay. So the thing that's pissing me off right now is that the thing that has saved me from ending my own life so many fucking times through the history of my existence on this planet has been a combination of the music that I listen to, the fashion that I identify with, and the religion or the spirituality that I follow. Those are the three primary things that have kept me alive, all these years, these 35 years, which is why I'm sitting before you now. And to see people purposefully creating misconceptions and spreading lies about what we represent and who we are as people, whether you're an occultist, a goth, or just somebody that likes heavy metal music. The misconceptions that are flying around now, it's absolutely ridiculous. EA co-editing being completely deplatformed, and then people actually in favor of it. It's like, do you realize the precedent that you're setting by being in favor of somebody that did absolutely nothing wrong being deplatformed? Do you realize the precedent that you're setting? Like, it is very true what they say. Like, you can sit there and you can be in favor of somebody being deplatformed that didn't do anything wrong, but by that token, it's not going to take very long for them to get to you
Well, that's the
until the
thing.
tables are turned.
What's the quote? I can't remember. I don't want to misquote, but you know the quote I'm thinking about, where the first they came for this group of people, I said nothing. Same sort of thing.
Yep.
It's if you don't speak up for people who have no voice, eventually you will have no voice, and
Exactly.
you're gone. That's what it
Exactly.
comes down to.
Exactly. And that the entire basis of this channel exists on a basis of, you know, creating a space where not only do I defend those that seemingly cannot defend themselves, but also I attack those that try to attack us. Right now, I don't have a distinct issue with people's belief systems. I don't care what you believe. But when your shit starts to attack me directly and it begins to create problems for me and people in my community, then I draw a line there. Okay. I draw that line in the sand. And I am a very vocal individual. I have no issue speaking my thoughts. And many people that have come thinking that I'm going to cower down, because they have a difference of opinion to me and they come at me very aggressively and they think that I'm going to cower down, and I don't cower down. And then I immediately invite them onto this show. I say, well, come talk to me. Come talk to me. If you disagree with me, if you think that you have something that you can teach me or that you can show me, then show me. Come and talk to me. And guess how many of them have taken me up on that offer? Zero. Not a single one of them have ever taken me on that offer. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it is that out of everyone that has come to attack me, the moment that I say, well, come talk to me one-on-one, clear the air, I'm willing to speak, I'm willing to learn. Not an attack. I'm not here to win. I'm here to learn. Why do you think it is that so many of them have either completely ignored me or have totally and utterly declined? That tells me that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And if you're looking for a fight, I'm not going to fight you. I'll discuss things with you. And that's the thing that people don't want. They want to see me lose my cool. They want to see me become violent. They want to see me become aggressive. Because the moment that I do that,
That's the whole gaslighting stuff that I'm not cool with whatsoever.
exactly. That's exactly what it is. They immediately shut down, right? When they don't see me do that, they can't turn around and say, see, you see what he's doing? You see how he is? You see how he acts? Doesn't happen. I don't give that to them. No point. There's clean ways to fight battles. And up until now, I think I've won most of them. You guys have seen them in progress. You guys have seen the fights that I've picked with people. You've seen how many times I've lost. To this point, not a single one. Not a single fight have I lost. I think it speaks for itself. And it's not that I'm not willing to learn. I openly say the reason I want to discuss something with somebody is because I want to learn from you. I want to learn your ideas. I want to learn what it is that you think. Nobody has anything to teach, I guess.
My belief, pardon me, is I think we all can teach each other something
Yeah.
because we all have different opinions, we have different viewpoints,
Mm-hmm.
different experiences that we can share and learn. And the same as it, like looking at the goth subculture, every one of us have different experiences that have brought us here, and we can share
Mm-hmm.
and add to what it is to be goth or emo or whatever we call
Mm-hmm.
it now. Just to go into that sort of tie back into the goth stuff.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
mean it goes right back into that. Like, I mean, the thing is like when it comes to goth culture was dragged through the dirt in the '90s the same way that the occult was dragged through, that Satanism was dragged through in the '80s. The way
mhm,
that general occultism is being dragged through the dirt now. I mean, it's a breath of fresh air that being goth isn't as um tacked as it used to be. You know, it's still there are still people that attack it. There are still people that, are like, like what the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you dress that way? Or like with tattoos, why do you do that to your body? Or, things like that. But it's few and far between now. Like at least in my experience, it's few and far between. And it's a breath of fresh air to see that something is starting to kind of become more socially acceptable.
mhm. There's still going to be people, obviously, that are going to be have a negative viewpoint on what we might dress as or think and say and that sort of thing. It's not as prevalent, I don't think. I don't think as it was.
It isn't. Well, that's also because like the world is starting to like let's face facts, right? The biggest you know um opponent that goth culture had back in the '90s and early 2000s was the Christian right. You know, that was the biggest opponent we had, and that was because the evangelical extremists or Christian right looked at us as outwardly expressing our love for Satan because of how we looked and the things that we listened to and the things that we liked. And they would nitpick and cherry pick lyrics and sayings and memes and things like that we had at the time, that we considered funny due to the commentary that it was making on, the society at the time. And use that as a matter of fact, as to, well, look at what they're doing, look at what they're saying, look at how they're dressing, look at the music they listen to, look at the games that they play, and then kind of sitting there saying that like everything that we were doing was like falling into the hands of Satan. And at the end of the day, it's always the same fight. It's always the same fight. In the '80s with the Satanists, the Satanic Panic, where the fuck you think that came from? That directly came from the Christian right. You go into the '90s, the opponents against goth culture. The people that were against goth culture were people that looked at it as being a form of Satanism, almost like dressing in robes and things like that in public. Something of that nature. That's kind of how they looked at it. They looked at it as the perversion of humanity and society. With men wearing makeup and things like that. That was a big fucking deal. Um, it was during like the peak of the fight for the LGBT rights for marriage and things like that. We were right in the peak of that fight. That's the our youth was in the peak of that battle.
Mhm.
To get them to have the ability to be able to be married. That's where our fight lied. Our fight lied in that. That's where we existed. We existed into the meat of that. We saw the disgusting nature of the right, you know, as we were growing up, and the things that they were doing and saying to people that just wanted to live their lives just like everybody else. And that extended through everything. That extended through religion, that extended through fashion, that extended through music, that extended through sexual preferences. The biggest plague that we have as a people, in my opinion, are these evangelical extremist bastards and the Christian right. These are the largest opponents that we have always had, and they continue to be, the largest opponents that we have. They continue to be the oppressors. I mean, and it's sad to see that, they still can't let go. They're the biggest hypocrites that have ever existed. You don't even have to be a Satanist. You just look a little different from other people in the way that you dress, and automatically you're going to burn in hell. Like people that didn't even know who I was. They didn't even know what I believed in. They just saw how I dressed and would scream at me at the mall, "You're going to burn in hell." You know? And it's just it's absolutely ridiculous. It's like, fucker, you don't know me. Exactly, Sophie. I agree. Transgender rights as well, and that's a more modern thing as well now. That's also becoming that's coming to a spearhead now. That's another big thing that we're dealing with. I mean, but that's more, the generation after us. That's more their fight. We're here for it. Don't get me wrong. We're here for it. But at the end of the day, those types of fights, those progressive fights that need to happen, those fall on the shoulders of the youth. And sadly to say, I hate to say it, I'm not the youth anymore. I'm there for it. I'm there to defend it. I'm there to help with that fight. But it's not falling on my shoulders the way it was with, for example, the rights, for the LGBT community to be able to get married, things like that. You know, um, so it's definitely kind of like a necessary aspect of things. But the
Mhm.
biggest opponents that we're running into here, is that it's the Christian right. It always has been. Now it's a bit confusing now with like the occult aspect of things, and the way things are kind of going with the occult side of things with now they're trying to tie us into terrorist organizations, right? Which is something that's absolutely terrifying to me. Like they are literally trying to draw lines that don't exist, that everyone in the occult is connected to these terrorist organizations. Um, that's scary. That is very scary, because that also means it's very easy if they manage to do that. Understand the precedent here, Jack. If they are capable of drawing a line of connection to one of us, to a terrorist group, once that first line is drawn, once that first connection is made, no matter how far reaching it is, it becomes significantly easier for them to draw further parallels between the occult and terrorist organizations or Nazi organizations later on with other people. It becomes significantly easier to do that. And if you look through history, all it takes is that first one that they push on, and they make that connection, and boom, everybody has that connection. Back in the 80s with the Satanic Panic, there were things that were happening that looked like or appeared as if they were satanic rituals. And they were able to draw connections to people that were at the time Satanists or people involved in something similar to Satanism. And once that parallel was drawn from one crime, one group, everything else just fell into place. It was so much easier for them to sit there and say, well, you're this, so you did this. These are precedents that we do not want to set. These are precedents that we need to push back on. We need to push back on these precedents. because if we don't push back on these precedents, they're going to eat us alive. Thankfully, with the goth culture, like we were able to kind of dodge a lot of bullets back in the 90s and the early 2000s about people trying to blame us for murders and sacrificing animals and shit like that.
It was still there. I remember that.
You remember that?
I lived some of that. Yeah. I've seen people deal with that.
Yeah.
Couple of the stuff that happened in the States in the late
Mhm.
90s. So if you're wearing a trench coat,
Uh-huh.
a thick
Yep,
black one,
yep. Yep, exactly.
it was always a thing. And thankfully, I was out of high school at that point. I was in university. But the person I was dating at the time, she had a, a an, a peer in high school, and he was coming out
Mhm.
at the same time. He was heavily into goth, wearing a trench coat. He was picked on for sure, and it was all part of that. Trying to find someone to blame, trying
Mhm.
to see connections where they aren't really there. You're trying
Mhm.
to see similarities, and you're now going from attacking the people who perpetrated this event, this
Mhm.
horrific event, and trying to find blame in anything you can because it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
And that's more or less what I'm seeing here. But also, there's parallels, even historically, to like the witch trials
Mhm.
and things like that in Salem and what have you. So you can find historical evidence that humanity is shitty.
It
And there's
definitely is.
so, but it's always a cycle. It always repeats, and we're now in this other new cycle, which is doing similar things.
Mhm. But it's
And with
always
the
it's
in,
always what is perceived as being darker. It's always in what's perceived to be, you know, um, evil to other people, to the masses, like
if
dressing
you're
in
not
black
me, you're
or
different. Therefore, you're darker and
uh-huh,
wrong
exactly.
and evil.
Mhm.
And that's the very basic explanation I can think of.
Exactly. And again, it doesn't matter what facet of society or what facet of, you know, life you're going through. At the end of the day, um, it's very important to remember the only way we're going to stop more witch trials, more stake burnings, metaphorically speaking, is if we intelligently push back against the things that resist us. We're not trying to change the world. We're not trying to make everybody like us. We just want to be able to live our lives and be who we are freely without persecution.
And I also
And if,
want to, I
go
don't
ahead.
mean to interrupt, but and to add on to that, as much as we want to live our lives without persecution, I don't want to do that to anyone. I want to
Hmm.
accept people, regardless of whether you're in the Gothic subculture or any subculture, whether emo, whatever, or not even that. Just
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
pop culture.
Yeah.
You live how you need to live. You be the person you need to be. I want to accept that, and I want to promote that. So if you want to dress in a clown suit half the day or all the day, or whatever the case is, power to you, man. I don't care. I'll treat you the same, and I care more about what's underneath that skin that we wear and present to each other all the time. I care more about that than anything else.
Hmm. No, and you're 100% correct. And like that extends into like, religious communities as well, even though, we also understand, that the Christian right is just not going, this is not going to happen because they feel that they need to save everybody's soul. And in order to save people's souls, we need to tell you what you're doing wrong. And that's everything in your life if you're not worshiping Jesus, but whatever. Um, but Maeve has a point. The thing is like, we're not going to win this fight by doing the exact same thing that people do to us. That is not how we're going to win the fight.
And
Like
we're
that's
not
not
victims. Just looking at chat
exactly.
briefly. We're
Hmm.
not victims.
Exactly.
We
You know.
I don't see it that way myself at all.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not being victimized. Um, I mean, but the thing is, there are people that are doing shit that, is hurting people. It's hurting people's livelihoods. It's hurting people's abilities to live. I mean, I've never considered myself a victim, regardless of the things that I've been through. And I've been through a lot. Okay. But the thing is like, if we're going to win this fight, the thing is we're not going to win this fight by doing the same thing that everybody does to us. We need to do it differently. We need to be reasonably aggressive, but not violent. Right? Understand the difference. Right? Aggressiveness does not necessarily mean violence. Okay. We need to be reasonably aggressive, stand our ground, protect each other, stand up for each other when it is necessary to stand up for each other, so long as, like, the person we're standing for is, in the right, and stop this shit from happening. We have the information, we have the ability, we've seen how history goes, we've seen what's happened just over the last 35, 40 years. We've seen how that shit goes. So we have the patterns, but we have the ability to stop it before it takes off. And just like what Maeve said, like, you know, do it without becoming the thing you hate. Because that's what a lot of people sadly end up doing. An attempt to protect themselves and the people that they care about within the communities that they thrive in, they end up turning into the very devils that they try to cast out.
And that's very common these days.
Hmm.
And it's very easy to fall into that pattern because it is prevalent online. You can't escape it, and you can find other people who think like you, and you can
Hmm.
get trapped into that mentality, that mob mentality, that groupthink.
Exactly.
I think that's the term that would apply necessarily to this. So you can be trapped in that for sure, and and become that which you hate.
Hmm. Exactly. And it's just like, what Sophie says is people have been weaponizing their victimhood, and that's not okay. It's like, I don't see people like us doing that. And I don't see people like us doing that either. Because the occult, at least I use occult as like a general term, because that I think that encompasses pretty much everything within, this community. But within the occult community, I believe that the reason why we are occultists is because we find power in being occultists. Like, we like, through the, the traumas and the things that have happened in our lives, we find, a way to, you know rise above those things. And yes, I mean, that falls into, goth culture as well. I think, like, a lot of people that go into the goth culture have been through some shit, and, by externalizing, some of that pain, and kind of putting it out there and being creative with it and trying to create a canvas of your life, you rise above, those traumas, those difficult things. It provides us a bit of internal power to be able to kind of control ourselves. We're not trying to control other people. So I don't think that people like us would actually fall into kind of using victimhood as a weapon, or weaponizing victimhood. I think that some people may. I think it's unavoidable to some degree, but I think those types of people are very easily identifiable. We're not here to talk about being victims. We're here to talk about, you know, we're not evil people. We're not here to do the devil's work. We're here to live our lives. We're here to be happy. We're here to grow
We
and help as many people as we can along the line.
like as far as that, to add on to that,
Hmm.
um, for myself at least, and I'm assuming for many people too, it is a lot of self-reflection. We
Is
are seeing ourselves in the society and our place in it. Also at the same time feeling ourselves apart from it. We can see within society really what is not working, what is, and trying to navigate that. We can see all sides, at least I can, and I try to make the best effort to understand all sides, even especially the opinions and the viewpoints that I don't agree with necessarily, or or can't experience. I want to make that extra effort to really sort of get that. And with the Gothic subculture, we always have been that way, I think,
Hmm.
because we were outsiders essentially.
Exactly.
So we have that outside viewpoint to be able to see in. Continue. Go ahead. I know
No,
you're
I
about to
was
say
just
something.
gonna. No, I was just actually gonna kind of like comment on something someone in the chat. So we got the facts. So first comment is, wait a minute, is this turning into a we are victims mindset? And then the next comment after is, all right, let's hear the rest. So first and foremost, I'm not blind to the attitude kind of being presented with with that kind of comment. First and foremost, welcome. It's good to have you here. I'm into different, hearing different people's opinions. But regardless of me being willing to hear other people's opinions, I will not tolerate people being in the community that have a destructive mindset, that are inside of the community or watching or trying to create a situation where you think I need your validation, or you think that I need you to validate who I am or what it is that I'm talking about or what it is that I'm saying. I'm going to make something abundantly clear to everyone in the chat. I do not require your validation. I do not care what you think about me. I do not care if you like me, if you don't like me. It is of no consequence to me. So, if you come into this chat with an attitude like you have all the answers, or that your validation is the thing that is necessary to make somebody feel like they're worth something, then please find the door, because that is something that I do not tolerate. I do not need you to like me. I don't care if you like me. If you hate me, all the fucking better. Please hate me with an unholy passion, because I honestly don't give a shit. That's it. Yeah, that was ranty, but like I just needed to say it because I don't like when people pull that shit. I don't like it when when people do that, where they come out with these little snide comments or these little things, you know. It was kind of like, well, let's see how I feel about this. I don't care how you feel about it. I really don't. It's my channel. It's my show. You can be here or you cannot be here. Like, that's your prerogative.
Like, realistically, when with regards to the topics we've been talking about, it's definitely blended into different things,
Hmm.
extensions beyond the Gothic subculture as well as
Yes,
the
of
Satanic side
course.
of things,
Hmm.
um, and it always will, I think, and we're doing our both of our best to try to keep it back to the topic at hand, as well as to respect
Hmm.
where our conversations are going
Yep,
at the
exactly.
same time. Um, I've got a
No, and I
thought,
don't,
but
and I
I
don't mean to
can't.
be disrespectful. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful in that comment. I just wanted to make sure that's clear, and that wasn't just directed at you, Facts. I mean, that's also anybody that comes in here with that mindset. Like anyone that comes in here with that mindset, whether we're talking about goth culture, whether we're talking about Satanism, whatever it is that we're talking about, when people come in with that attitude that's like, well, you need me to validate you. I don't need you to validate shit. I don't need anyone to validate who I am as a person. I myself validate who I am because I'm
And the type.
comfortable in. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, so I don't want to interrupt you. It's, I'm just gauging your pauses, and I'm like, I'm going to say something now because you keep saying it, and I keep having the same thought. And I agree with you. The only people that can validate who you are you. You shouldn't give a shit about anyone else's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If you like My Little Pony and Doc Martens and whatever else,
More power
and you
to you.
tur and you connect those things together, and you connect the Gothic subculture, and you make goth My Little Pony, and you decorate your wall with that, you should do what makes you you, and what you enjoy, and follow those passions, because no one else can tell you otherwise, and should tell you otherwise, and that's what goth is,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
We're a bunch of individuals that we support each other, and that
Mhm.
is how it should always be. And
Exactly.
I'm trying to get all my thoughts out into words because my
Mhm.
mind is just everywhere at this point. Because there's so many different things that I'm finding difficult to condense into
Mhm.
meaningful paragraphs or sentences here. But but
I
the
understand the
the
feeling.
the point is, and it's trying to feed off of what you were saying too, is yes, we're all individuals, but we're part of a larger community,
Yes.
and we support everyone's individuality.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what it's about. It doesn't matter if you're an occultist or you're an alternative. Let's just like, you know, Sophie said, occultists and alternative people are here of their own free will. Exactly. Here because you want to be here. And you don't need me to validate you. And I don't need you to validate me. You should feel validated inside of yourself. Just like he said, if you dig Doc Martens and My Little Pony and somebody gives you shit about it, fuck them. Just fuck them. If that's something that completes you and makes you feel good about being yourself, go for it. That's the only thing that matters is that you feel good about yourself. That's what the whole thing's about. That's what this whole conversation is about. It doesn't matter if you're an occultist or you're a goth or whoever you are. If I can help you feel validated inside of yourself, not me validating you, not me validating you, finding your own validation inside of yourself and who you are as a person. That is the overall goal. That is what I'm trying to do. That is the support that I want to give you as a community. Is I want you to feel validated inside of yourself. That's what I'm looking for. And I think on that note, I think it's a good point to call it. Um, I feel like things are starting to lag on my computer again. I don't want to go through another blue screen of death.
We've had a 2-hour long conversation. Yeah, we didn't necessarily focus 100% on goth, but like I said, it went to places where I think probably needed to go to as
Mm-hmm.
an extension of the conversation we were having.
Mm-hmm.
Could it have been more historical, fact-based, sort of the history of goth? Sure, but I
I
don't want
would,
to read
yeah.
wiki.
I still would like to
Um,
go back and go into that
so do
further,
I,
though.
because um, it's where everything came from.
Mm-hmm.
But we were mostly talking about our experiences and what brought us here,
Yeah, so I
and
think that's kind of
hopefully,
opened up the Pandora's box.
more or less, and I'm hoping personally that this conversation, us talking about where we came from and our experiences getting here, allows people to have that same conversation with us or other people as well.
I agree. I agree. So, chat, on that note, thank you all very much for being here. Greatly appreciate it. You guys are fucking amazing. And we'll be uploading a pre recorded video, probably diving further into kind of like the more cultist aspect of things tomorrow. And we will be having another podcast with Mystic on Saturday. And Maeve will be back with me on Wednesday of next week to continue a conversation on the goth culture. And hopefully we'll be able to stay on topic. So thank you guys. Greatly appreciate it. See you guys.